Following is a CNBC original production.
They can be as fantastic as a faraway galaxy, as real as next door, laid back or action-packed. For a regular Joe, or even a pro, video games make fantasies come true.
Whether that's driving a Formula One race car, whether it's flying a spaceship, skiing down a mountain slope, or snowboarding, or being in a war. They let you do what you always wanted to do.
On the other hand, they've also been blamed for causing real problems.
The ability of our children to access pornographic and violent material on an M-rated video game is spiraling out of control.
To play or not to play? Despite the questions, more and more people are saying yes.
This is not a fad. When you ask people today if they play games, whether they intend to play as much or more in the future, more than half say they expect to play the same amount or more 10 years from now as they do today.
It's not only cool to be a gamer these days, it can also be profitable.
We're going to have a cool shootout. You guys can get a chance to play against me. How's it going, man?
At 24, Jonathan Wendell, who plays under the name Fatality, is one of the first superstars of professional video gaming.
Last year, I think I made close to around $231,000 just playing in tournaments. So gaming's definitely getting bigger. The prize money is also rising to the next level.
If you add up everything, the sales of hardware and software all across game platforms, the world is now spending $30 billion a year on video games. And the game playing population keeps growing.
I have an Xbox, GameCube.
Not all gamers are nerdy and ugly and have no lives outside of video games. Everybody plays video games. I'm sure like even the hottest of blonde chicks, and they'll play Snake on their cell phone when they're bored.
Now, the CNBC original documentary, Game On, the unauthorized history of video games.
Press start now.
Believe it or not, it all began with an atomic scientist. That's right, a nuclear physicist named Willie Higginbotham. In 1958, Higginbotham was working at the Brookhaven National Laboratory on Long Island. Now, a nuclear research lab in the middle of suburbia at the height of the Cold War wasn't exactly a welcome neighbor. But to show its work was harmless, the lab decided to throw an open house. And Higginbotham had a great idea for it.
Willie Higginbotham took an oscilloscope. He built a tennis game into it. He called it Tennis for Two. He wanted something that was exciting and juicy for people to see. So he created this tennis game.
Tennis for Two was the hit of the open house. People waited online for hours for a chance to play the game. But that's as far as it went. After all, how many people have an oscilloscope? Yet the idea of playing games electronically on a screen didn't go away. In the early 1960s, engineering students at MIT became fascinated by computers and what could be done with them. One of those students was Steve Russell.
And he's a member of the Tech Model Railroad Club at MIT, who in 1960 got their hands on a PDP computer, one of the first computers to have a screen on it. And he was the one who came up with, I'm going to do a game. And he created 2 ships with a kind of a sun in the middle that had gravity, and they flew around and they tried to shoot each other.
Russell called the game Space War. It created a sensation among his fellow engineering students, not just at MIT, but also at other colleges fortunate to have computers then. Still, as smart as he was, Russell didn't have a clue about how to market his game.
It was on a $100,000 computer, so at 25 cents a game, people would only have to play it 400,000 times to pay for the computer to begin with.
But in 1966, a New Hampshire engineer named Ralph Baer, who worked for a defense contractor making electronics for the military,
testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
came up with the breakthrough that got video games out of the lab and into the living room.
I'd like to introduce you to the brown box.
The answer was right in front of him, right in front of everybody.
Ralph was looking at a TV in the 60s and he was saying, you know, what can you do with a TV besides watch My Three Sons? And he came up with the idea that you could play a game on it.
I scribbled some notes and wrote a 4-page paper, and that was a Magna Carta of the home video game business. It's all there.
Even though Ralph Baer is called the father of video games, he is still a kid when it comes to demonstrating them.
You're going to try and catch me. Come and get me.
And this is the first one he ever made.
Whoop, he got me already.
Just 2 dots chasing each other around the screen.
He's too good for me.
Before long, Baer felt ready to take a shot.
Boom.
And show his invention to one of his bosses.
Got it. And he came up and he shot the gun, and then he tried the gun from the hip, and he hit the spot, and he was delighted. He said, hey, this is neat. You know? And he gave us $2,000. Yeah.
But the company's board of directors started giving him grief.
Next thing I know, I'm surrounded by 10 people who look like this. What the hell is this? What's it doing here? But nobody said no. They just said, well, build something that we can license to somebody. Boom, got it.
Baer wondered who that somebody would be. He was stumped until he thought of the obvious.
The tubes are connected to the chassis is connected to the things you do.
It occurred to me, hell, all the parts that are in components, the electronic components that are in my games, are exactly the same parts as those used to build television sets.
RCA, Zenith, Sylvania, GE. For 2 years, Baer demonstrated his prototype machine to them all, until finally in 1971, he found a taker in Magnavox.
Magnavox presents Odyssey.
A year later, the Magnavox Odyssey, the electronic game of the future, made its debut.
There was a combination of absolute amazement and total bewilderment. You have to remember that nobody knew what to expect from a video game. People had no concept of it.
It might have been the iPod of its day if it hadn't been for Magnavox's marketing mistakes.
Right now, when you buy any Magnavox TV.
When they first showed Odysseys in television ads, they showed them, of course, in conjunction with Magnavox television sets. And they worded things in such a way that people got the idea that the Magnavox video game, the Odyssey, would only work on a Magnavox set. Oh, that didn't exactly enhance sales.
The Odyssey seemed destined for the same technological junkyard as 8-track tapes and quadraphonic sound. If making video games was ever to become an industry, what it needed was not another inventor or computer geek. What it needed was an inventor and computer geek who was also part visionary, part hustler. In a warehouse in Silicon Valley, he was already at work.
Coming up, the first video game to become a hit.
They took something like a Pong, you know, a nice little wood cabinet with a flat top, and you could put your beer on there to enable people to say, okay, ping pong, I get this.
That's next, as Game On continues.